Now the next advice the Buddha said, living in suitable places. In the past you have made punya or merit, and with oneself rightly guided or directed, this is the highest blessing. Now, living in suitable places, this is in what sense is a place suitable? In the sense here, it is in the sense that a suitable place is a place where you can learn the Dhamma, you can practice the Dhamma. That is a suitable place. Like here in Ipoh, can be said to be a suitable place because you have people to teach you the Dhamma, and also you can practice the Dhamma in the sense of going to do dana, offerings to a monk, and then you can keep your precepts. You can either keep the precepts in the Buddhist society, or you can go to a monastery to keep the precepts, and you can hear the Dhamma, you can learn meditation, etc. That is said to be a suitable place. In this world you'll find, in this whole world, there are not very many places where you can learn the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma, right? If you look at this whole world, how many places are there where you can hear the Dhamma and learn the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma, so that you walk the good way and bring you to a good rebirth? Not many places. For example, if you go to Africa, you find such a large continent of Africa, there's hardly any place where you can find some monk, some monastery to learn the Dhamma from, right? So if you stay in a suitable place where you can learn the Dhamma, then you are very lucky. In the past to have made merit or punya, this is another blessing. If in the past life you had done merit, you had done good, then this life you will reap the result. That you can see. If you, for example, now, I think all of you here are fairly okay in terms of you get enough to eat. We have most of you have your own house. Many of you have cars to drive, and then you are able to come here to learn the Dhamma. You can practice the Dhamma. That means compared with a lot of people in the world, you are very fortunate. So it must be that in the past you have done a lot of merit. That is why now you are blessed with good fortune in this lifetime. And with oneself rightly guided or rightly directed, this Atta Samapanidi. This one, right, with oneself rightly directed, that means you are walking the right way. You are walking the right way. That means you are not walking the way that will bring you to a woeful plane of rebirth. That is the highest blessing. So I think all of you here, you are learning the Dhamma. Definitely you are walking. You are rightly directed, rightly guided. So that is a very great blessing. Now the next one is Bahu Sachancha Sipancha. This Bahu Sacha, the first word, Bahu means much or many. Sacha is truth. This word Bahu Sacha is equivalent to another word Bahu Sutta. Sutta is hearing, that means much hearing. This one is much of the truths. That means it also means much hearing of the truths. These two words are equivalent, Bahu Sutta and Bahu Sacha. It means much learning of the Dhamma, because Sacha is the truths, the Four Noble Truths, that type of truth. So you have much learning, or you have much knowledge of the Dhamma. Much knowledge of the Dhamma, that is a very great blessing. If you have much knowledge of the Dhamma, you are definitely walking the right way. That will lead you to happiness, not only this life, in the future life also. The second word is Sipancha. Sipancha is general knowledge. Sometimes here they translate it as handicraft. I think it's more of general knowledge. So you have general knowledge also is beneficial. in life. The more we know, the better. And then being well trained and disciplined, and that speech which is well spoken, this is the highest blessing. So well trained and disciplined, that means you are a disciplined person. If a disciplined person, that is a very great blessing. A lot of people are not disciplined. When you are not disciplined, then sometimes they say fang pian. It's not fang pian, it becomes sui pian. You do what you like. You just follow your moods. The Buddha said, if a person is diligent, if a person is hard-working, I think it's one in the Digha Nikaya, Sigalovada Sutta. Buddha said, if a person is hard-working, and the Buddha said, hard-working or diligence is the one quality that will benefit you this lifetime and the future lifetime. Because I think some Deva asked the Buddha, is there one thing that will benefit us this life and future lifetime? The Buddha said, yes. What is that one thing? Diligence, hard-working, having a lot of energetic effort. So, if you are hard-working, then you will benefit yourself this lifetime and another lifetime. And in this Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha said, if a person is diligent, he won't say, I won't do this work because the weather is too cold, or the weather is too hot, or because I'm hungry, or I'm too full. If you are not hardworking, you are lazy, you give all kinds of excuses not to push yourself to do something. But if you are hardworking, then all these conditions doesn't matter. You want to do something, you just go ahead and do it. So there is a kind of person who is disciplined, and a person is disciplined, then you benefit yourself a lot. You can easily see from our younger days, those of us who studied very hard, they do well in the exam and all that because they put in a lot of effort. They are disciplined. And then that speech which is well spoken, Subhasita Chaya Vacha. This speech which is well spoken, that means well spoken, that means when you speak to somebody, you use that kind of speech which doesn't hurt that person too much, and the person feels grateful to you for having uttered that speech. Sometimes if we speak some words, sometimes not well spoken, that people get angry with us. Instead of thanking us for giving them the advice, sometimes they get angry. So if you use speech which is well spoken, that is a great blessing. The Buddha said there are a few characteristics of good speech. One is it must be beneficial to that person, not harmful. Secondly, the speech must be truthful, not a lie. Thirdly, the speech must be is given at the right time. At the right time. Sometimes, so when a person is very angry, and then that is not the right time to give advice. When that person has calmed down, then you give advice, then that person will accept. So the timing also very important. Fourthly, when we speak, the words must be gentle. Sometimes we might give good advice, but we give it in a very harsh way, in a very fierce way. People may not accept, so we give it in a gentle way. That's the fourth. The fifth one, the Buddha said, when we utter something, we have a mind with a mind of loving kindness. It comes with a loving heart. Then people will also recognize that. So these are the 5 qualities of good speech. The first one is beneficial. Second one is truthful. Third one is spoken at the right time. Fourth one, it is spoken gently. The fifth one is spoken with a mind of loving kindness. Then Then after that, support of mother and father, looking after mother and father, support of wife and children, ways of work without conflict, this is the highest blessing. This looking after mother and father, this every one of us, I think we recognize that this is very important, because in our Buddhist tradition, looking after our parents is a responsibility that everybody should take care of, because our parents looked after us when we were young. Many times when we were sick, when we were young, our parents didn't take the extra care to look after us. We would have died many times, but because our parents' loving care, we survived. So now when they are old, we have to look after them. This is simple gratitude. If a person has no gratitude to his mother and father, then that person is not behaving like a human being. Then he might not get back a human body in future. The support of wife and children, that also is a family responsibility. If a person is not responsible to the family, then that person is also inviting a lot of problem. Probably many of you know recently there was this incident in Bido, I heard, where the man stabbed the wife to death and stabbed his children also because the wife was unfaithful. And this man was working very hard in Singapore, but the wife was flirting around. So this is the version I heard. So he came back and then so angry and he killed the wife. So a person who has a family, either, it doesn't matter whether it's the husband or the wife, both of them have responsibility to each other and to the children. Sometimes I've seen husband and wife break up, and then the one who suffers most is the children. I've seen with my own eyes sometimes, because husband and wife, they break up. The child is very psychologically disturbed. He becomes nervous, becomes very nervous, because he loves both the mother and the father. Now they quarrel and fight. He doesn't know which side to take. Then ways of work without conflict in our working life. If we have the type of work which does not conflict with others, that is the best. If we have conflict with others when we do work, like for example, some offices, there's a lot of politics, they say, and that is not good. Backstabbing and all that. We create a lot of unpleasant karma, and then next time it will ripen. So work without conflict is also a very high blessing. Then giving and conduct according to Dhamma and support for relatives with unobstructive karma, this is the highest blessing. Giving is dana, giving or charity, and conduct according to Dhamma. Conduct according to Dhamma, that means we conduct ourselves according to Dhamma, we accord with Dhamma. Simply put, this is also like keeping sila. This one, dana and sila. These two qualities are very, very important. Why? Because in one sutta, the Buddha said that if a person keeps these two, does these two, a very minimum, charity and keeping precepts. When we keep precepts, basically we are not harming other living beings. And the basic precepts that we should uphold every day is the 5 precepts, Pancha Sila. First one, not to kill other living beings intentionally. Second one, not to take what is not given to us. Or you could say not to steal. Third one is not to commit adultery. Fourth one is not to lie. The fifth one is not to take liquor or drugs, etc., so that we are out of control of ourselves. So the Buddha said, it is sila. So the Buddha said, if we do this charity and keeping precepts to a very low degree, very minimum, then at least we come back in the next rebirth very probably with a human body. But we will have not much luck. Person with not much luck. You find you want to get a living also, susah a bit. hard to get a living and all that. And then the Buddha said, if we do these two things, charity and keeping the precepts, to a medium degree, we will very likely come back in the next rebirth as a human being with a lot of good luck, with Tai Phúc, they say, a lot of good luck. You find you can easily become rich as such a person. And then the Buddha said, if we do these two things, charity and sila, to a high degree, very well, then we will very likely get a heavenly rebirth. We will be reborn as a heavenly being, where we will enjoy ourselves for millions and millions of years. So from here you can see that if a person does not do these two things at all, charity and sila, that person won't come back as a human being or as a deva. That person will be reborn in the woeful plains. Person without any merit at all will be born as a ghost. And if the person is very fierce and very lustful, might be reborn as an animal. And then if the person commits some heavy crime, serious crime, on top of that, person may be reborn in hell. So these two things are very basic. If we want a good rebirth, charity and keeping the precepts, especially the five, basically the 5 precepts at least. And then support for relatives. Relatives, we should try to support, as the English saying goes, blood is thicker than water. Because relatives are close to us from young. So if we are not close to them, if we have any trouble, they won't support us. So we should start by being close to our relatives. Then after that, you may have good friends where you want to be very close to. But at least for relatives, if we make the effort to be nice to them, people will respond. They'll also be nice to you. But I know some people, very sadly, their own brothers and sisters, they don't treat like brother and sisters. But they expect other people, their brothers and sisters, to treat them like brother and sister. So you don't treat your own brothers and sisters as brother and sister. How can you expect them to reciprocate? And then unobstructive karma. Unobstructive karma, that means that karma, the action you do, that will not obstruct you in future. So if you don't want this obstructive karma in the future, then you don't do that evil karma now. Just now I mentioned the 10 evil karmas that you should not do, that would obstruct you in future. First one is not to kill, not to steal, not to commit adultery, not to lie, not to carry tales to make people quarrel, not to speak harsh or coarse speech, not to engage in idle gossip, not to be excessively greedy or covetous, and then not to have too much hatred or anger, and then lastly to have not to have a wrong view, that means to have right view, right understanding of karma. This is unobstructive karma. Then after that, aversion and abstinence from evil, restraint from intoxicants, heedfulness in all that is Dhamma. This is the highest blessing. This one, abstinence from evil or aversion from evil. If we have aversion for evil, then we won't do evil. And then we will abstain from evil. The Buddha said, if we do good, we should also encourage other people to do good. In that way you get more blessings. And then you should also praise the doing of good. And then praise the doing of good, and then support other people to do good. So the reverse is also the same. So if we have aversion towards evil, we should also encourage other people not to do evil, and then condemn the doing of evil, and then support people from not doing evil. Because when we do evil, we are reborn in the woeful plains of rebirth. Then restrain from intoxicants. These intoxicants, especially liquor, the standard for lay people is not that you cannot drink at all. The word is that is intoxicating. If you drink to the extent that you become intoxicated, that is bad. Then what you should not say, sometimes you say. What you should not do, you do. Right? So because you are not in control of yourself. But for lay people, sometimes some people have to entertain customers and all that, bring them out at night and all that. If you have to drink, then only drink the minimum so that you are not intoxicated. And heedfulness in all that is Dhamma. That means to be heedful of the Dhamma all the time. Whatever actions we do, always remember the Dhamma. We get our guidance from the Dhamma. Now that the Buddha is no more with us, the Buddha said, his Dhamma body is still with us. So we should consider the Dhamma as the Buddha's, the inheritance from the Buddha. And that is our guidance in whatever we do. Then respectfulness and humility, contentment and gratitude, the timely hearing of the Dhamma, this is the highest blessing. Respectfulness is the same just now as honoring those worthy of honor. That means you are respectful of those worthy of respect. And humility also is a very good quality to cultivate, because if we forget, we tend to be big-headed. So we always remember the way of the Dhamma. Like this kind of advice is telling us it's better to be humble than to be arrogant. And then contentment. Contentment is another quality that we have to cultivate. Contentment doesn't come from getting a lot. Some people think, if I make $1 million, I should be content. After he makes 1 million, he's thinking of 10 million already, right? So there is never enough. There's never enough in this world. So we have to learn to be content. Whatever comes our way, we should remember that is we have like our destiny in a way, because it is all because of past life. That what we get now is because of our past life actions. So we cannot grumble. We cannot say this world is not fair. Because what you get now is due to your actions in the past. And gratitude, this gratitude is one of the qualities which is hard to find in the world. The Buddha said, difficult to find in the world are people who are grateful. Sometimes you help somebody, then after that person doesn't remember you at all. So if we want people to be grateful to us, we must also be grateful to those people who have helped us. So we have to cultivate this gratitude. And gratitude begins with our parents. Timely hearing of the Dhamma. Hearing of the Dhamma is very important. The Buddha said these two, hearing of the Dhamma and discussing the Dhamma. We hear the Dhamma, sometimes certain points we don't understand very well. When we discuss with other people, we understand better. Patience and obedience or meekness when corrected. The sight of samanas, timely discussion of the Dhamma, this is the highest blessing. Patience or forbearance is another very good quality. Ren, Chinese is ren, yan. This one I think you all know. Whatever happens, we have to bear, we have to be patient. If we understand the working of karma, sometimes we are very unhappy also. We must understand this is the working of karma, so we have to bear it. And then obedience when corrected, or meekness when corrected. Actually, if somebody tells us our faults, we should be very grateful to that person. So sometimes there are some people, when you tell them their faults, many of us, including myself, when I was young, when somebody tells me my fault, I can never accept it. And later I realize, why am I grumbling so much? Actually, sometimes other people can see our fault better than us, because of our ego. Very often we don't want to acknowledge our weaknesses. But after some time you will see, actually some of our faults, we don't see so well. When other people correct us, we should be accepted. At least we listen and then think about it, whether it's right or not. Then the sight of samanas, that means seeing of monks. Samanas here refers to monks or renunciants. This is a blessing. If you have a chance to see monks, as I said, in this world, there are not many places where you can see monks. And when you get the sight of monks, that means you also get a chance to hear the Dhamma. That's why the sight of samanas is a blessing. Also, because monks are renunciants, if you have an opportunity to do dana to monks, that also is a blessing. Then timely discussion of Dhamma. Just now I mentioned, hearing of Dhamma and discussion of Dhamma is important. Ardent effort, the holy life leading, insight into the noble truths and the realization of Nibbana. This is the highest blessing. This one, ardent effort is Sauhang. Sauhang is ardent effort in practicing the holy life. And then the holy life leading the holy life or living the holy life. That means you can either be a monk or nun, or there are some people, they cultivate at home. And they practice the holy life at home. During the Buddha's time, there were many lay people who attained the third stage of sainthood, Aryahood, by practicing at home. Insight into the noble truths. If you study the Dhamma and then you meditate, these are the two important things that will give you insight into the noble truths. And then you will be slowly freed from samsara, the round of rebirths. And the realization of Nibbana, this is the highest blessing. Of course, realizing Nibbana, attaining Arahanthood, is the highest blessing. Though in contact with worldly dhammas, yet his mind is not shaken, griefless, dustless, secure. This is the highest blessing. If you practice the Dhamma, and then you meditate, if your mind is strong, then when you are in contact with worldly dhammas, the mind is not shaken. The mind is easily shaken when the mind is not concentrated, when the mind is scattered, and then outside things can shake us easily. But when we are concentrated and we learn to concentrate the mind becomes very tranquil and is not easily shaken. Then that kind of mind slowly becomes griefless, dustless, secure. This is the highest blessing. Since by doing such things as these, men are everywhere unvanquished and go everywhere in safety, this is the highest blessing. So when we cultivate all these things and we get to the highest stage, which is Nibbana, then everywhere we go, nothing can defeat us, and we can go everywhere in safety. And this is the highest blessing. One thing about going everywhere in safety, the Buddha said we should have a lot of metta in us, loving kindness. If we have loving kindness with us, wherever we go, these unseen beings, heavenly beings and ghosts, they will not harm us. But if you have a lot of anger, you don't have enough metta, then sometimes you go certain places, spirits can disturb us. So it's always good to have a lot of loving kindness inside us. Wherever we go, we try to tell all these beings around us and wish them well, everything, and then they will protect us rather than harm us. The question here is about the middle path. This middle path is mentioned in the first sutta, the Dhamma Chakkappavattana Sutta that the Buddha spoke. And in there, the Buddha talked about two extremes. And the two extremes mentioned by the Buddha, one was sensual enjoyment. The other one was self-inflicted pain, like some of these ascetics used to practice, where they beat themselves or they stand the whole day, whole night they stand without lying down, without sitting, etc. So this kind of self-inflicted penance was one extreme. The other one was sensual enjoyment. Then the Buddha said, without going to these two extremes, this is the middle path. And what is that middle path? The Aryan Eightfold Path is the middle path. It is not the middle path in the worldly sense. Why? Because it is not like in certain things, you could say the Buddha was extreme, in the sense of, for example, like keeping the precepts purely. The Buddha was, we could say, in certain ways, quite extreme, right? And that kind of extremism is, in the worldly sense, is extreme, but in the sense of Buddha's teaching, it was not extreme because it leads you to happiness later. You see, so it's not the middle path. Is not in the middle way of everything. The middle path is actually the Noble Eightfold Path, not in the sense of other things. Now you could say, not eating at all is one extreme. Eating 20 times a day is another extreme. So I will take the middle path. I will eat 10 times a day. That is not the Buddha's middle path. So you see, like the Buddha, he advised his monks to eat only in the morning. At first, the Buddha was quite relaxed, initially when he started accepting disciples. He never made any precept